Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Imagine for a second you are standing right outside a burning structure. Smoke is billowing out, visibility is absolutely zero, and lives are on the line. Today, we're taking a close look at the exact high-stakes practical state exam that fighter fighters have to pass to master a really critical life-saving technique, positive pressure ventilation. We're going to break down the anatomy of this exact procedure step by step, just like a candidate would for their state examiner. Here's how we're going to break it down today. First, the 4-minute lifesaver. Second, pre-operation coordination. Third, the 8 crucial steps. Fourth, maximizing fan effectiveness. And finally, safety on the line. All right, part 1, the 4-minute lifesaver. The clock is officially ticking. You know, inside a burning building, the flames aren't always the immediate enemy. It's the blinding smoke, the intense heat, and the toxic gases. To solve this deadly problem, a candidate taking their tactical ventilation practical exam gets a brutally strict time limit, 4 minutes and 40 seconds. That's it. Under that immense pressure, they've got to flawlessly verbalize and execute a life-saving process without missing a single beat. Because out there in the real world, and honestly on the examiner's clipboard too, missteps literally cost lives. And, well, they cost points.
So what's actually happening here? The crucial point is understanding the science. Positive pressure ventilation, or PPV for short, is a mechanical method. It's basically using a massive, high-powered fan placed just outside the structure to force fresh air inside. This creates an area of higher pressure inside the building compared to the outside. And that pressure difference, that's the magic right there. It literally shoves all that smoke, heat, and toxic gas out through one specific, designated exhaust opening. It takes this chaotic, pitch-black nightmare and turns it into a visible, survivable space for search and rescue operations.
Moving on to Section 2, pre-operation coordination, because communication and size-up are absolutely everything. Before anyone even thinks about touching a fan, there's critical prep work. You can't just flip a switch and hope for the best, right? To put you right in the boots of the candidate, here is the exact authoritative intro they have to deliver to the examiner. Quote, "Before beginning this task, I would ensure I am wearing full PPE appropriate for the incident. If conditions are determined to be an immediately dangerous to life and health or IDLH environment, I will go on air using my SCBA. I will find a second means of egress before beginning operations, and I will work on the windward side if possible to maximize ventilation effectiveness." End quote. Boom. They are taking total control of the scene before the operation even kicks off. A massive part of that control, it comes down to physics, specifically the delicate inlet-to-outlet ratio. Think of the building kind of like a giant balloon you're trying to inflate. The exhaust opening, which is your outlet, has to be opened first, and it absolutely must be smaller than the inlet, where your fan is sitting. Why? Well, if the outlet is too big, the air pressure just dumps right out. It can't build up, the positive pressure effect vanishes, and that smoke isn't going anywhere. For example, pairing a 20-square-foot front door inlet with a 10-square-foot window outlet, that creates the perfect favorable pressure relationship. Which brings us to Section 3, the 8 crucial steps for executing the exam. All right, this is the climax. The clock is running, the candidate is shouting out their actions. Let's walk through this dynamic sequence. Step 1, confirm the order with command in the interior crew. Coordination is huge here because you only want one designated outlet. Multiple openings, that'll ruin your pressure and push smoke into perfectly safe rooms. Step 2, open that outlet first, and remember, keep it smaller than the inlet. Step 3, completely remove any obstructions around that outlet. And Step 4, position your fan about 6 feet back from the inlet. But, and this is key, keep the blower turned 90 degrees away initially. Now, what's really interesting about Step 3, removing obstructions, is that it sounds incredibly basic, but obstructions literally kill your airflow. Seriously, even something as simple as a curtain left hanging, a drawn blind, or a random piece of furniture can fatally disrupt how those heated gases escape. You have to clear the whole shebang. Everything must be fully out of the way. Okay, keeping the momentum going. Step 5, utilize a windward side inlet whenever you can. Let Mother Nature's wind help your fan out. Step 6, start the fan, and only then reposition the blower to face the inlet. It's just much safer for equipment control. Step 7, ensure the cone of air coming from the fan covers 100% of the inlet opening. And finally, Step 8, continuously coordinate with the interior crew about opening and closing any doors or windows. Fun fact, during the exam, the candidate actually has to simulate this airflow control, usually by wrapping a salvage cover around the fan to show the examiner exactly how they'd manage that pressure. Let's zoom in on a critical part of step 7 for a second, the 100% seal. This is absolutely crucial. If that air cone from the fan, which is sitting about 6 feet back, remember, doesn't perfectly seal the entire doorway, positive pressure completely fails. Gaps around the edges mean air is just going to escape backwards instead of pressurizing the house. If the coverage is off, the firefighter has to fix it right then and there. Move the fan closer, pull it back, tilt the angle, do whatever it takes until that cone of air extends entirely beyond all the edges of the doorway.
Let's move to section 4 and see how this builds, maximizing fan effectiveness and scaling up operations.
So, what happens when a single fan just isn't cutting it? When you've got a massive volume of smoke, the candidate needs to know how to scale up. If you're bringing in a second fan, placement is everything. If you've got 2 fans of the exact same size, easy. You position them side by side. But if you have different sized fans, you do not put them side by side. Instead, you put the larger fan in front, closest to the door, and place the smaller fan directly behind it. It's this wild quirk of physics. Placing the larger fan in front actually allows it to capture and utilize the airflow from the smaller fan behind it, which massively boosts the overall pressure generation. It is a real game changer.
Finally, we hit section 5, safety on the line, how to mitigate the hazards.
Look, even when positive pressure ventilation is running flawlessly, we are still dealing with a fundamentally dangerous environment. Throughout those entire 4 minutes and 40 seconds, and of course out on a real fire ground, the firefighter has to constantly be on high alert. They absolutely must use their SCBA in any immediately dangerous to life and health or IDLH conditions. They've got to constantly monitor changing wind and fire behavior because blasting air into a building significantly impacts both of those things. They need to track their primary and secondary egress routes at all times. And most importantly, they have to watch out for fire extension. Because you're pumping so much fresh oxygen into the space, opening just one wrong door inside could accidentally feed and spread the fire instead of choking it out. If anything gets sketchy, they have to stop operations immediately. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer gravity of what these firefighters are dealing with. It's not just plugging in a fan. It is a precisely choreographed manipulation of physics, pressure, and combustion, all executed while wearing heavy gear in a totally high-stakes environment. In a profession where just opening the wrong door can spread a deadly fire, you really have to ask yourself, armed with these 8 steps and an understanding of the science, could you beat that 4-minute and 40-second clock?